Dim the lights. Settle in. And let us step back in time. The hour is early, the earth still cloaked in shadow, and the chill of night clings to the stones. Before you lies a land cut off from the rest of Greece not just by mountains, but by destiny. A land of silence and steel. Of dust, discipline, and defiance. This is Laconia. The morning mist clings to the Eurotas River as it winds through a valley older than memory. Around it, the rugged peaks of the Taygetus Range rise like watchful sentinels, unyielding, eternal. The air is sharp, the soil hard, and the people harder still. Here, in this austere and windswept corner of the ancient world, children were not born to live, they were born to serve, to endure, to fight. Every breath, every heartbeat, was in service to the state. And that state was Sparta. But forget the marble statues. Forget the Hollywood sheen. What lies ahead is not a tale of perfect heroes and poetic deaths. It is something far more haunting, and far more human. You will walk barefoot over cold stone. You will taste the bitterness of black broth and blood. You will feel the sting of the whip on your back and the iron in your soul. And as the firelight flickers in the eyes of warriors who never weep, you may find yourself wondering, could you have survived in Sparta? Come with me now. The city is stirring. The soldiers are rising. The phalanx waits. And so begins our long, unbroken march through the heart of history's most feared and fascinating warrior state. Keep your shield close. And do not fall behind. The world is still. You breathe in the sharp, dry air of the Peloponnesian highlands. It's the hour before dawn, when the stars are fading, and the horizon begins to whisper promises of light. The sky is a deep blue bruised with violet, and the mountains around you, those silent, hulking guardians, still wear their dark cloaks. But you can feel it. Change is coming. Not just to the sky, but to you. Step forward. Bare feet brush against dew-wet stone. The chill of the ground reaches up your legs like a slow, purposeful warning. Before you stretches the valley of Laconia, heartland of the most feared city-state in the ancient world. And winding through its center, like a serpent of molten silver, is the Eurotas River, cutting and coiling through the earth with ancient patience. You hear it now, faintly, murmuring over stone. The sound is calm. But beneath that calm, power. This place is not like the rest of Greece. There are no bustling harbors here. No great merchant ships crowding the waters. No ornate temples covered in gold. No busy fish markets echoing with the squabble of debate. Sparta is quieter. Harder. Stranger. Here, the mountains press close like the walls of a fortress. Nature does not coddle. She sharpens. And the people she raised in this cradle of stone are no less brutal than the land that birthed them. This is a land of warriors. But not in the way stories so often tell it. Sparta is not a city that celebrates war for its own sake. It does not decorate generals or throw lavish victory parades. It is not built on vanity or conquest. Sparta trains for war because it must. Because war is always just beneath the surface. Because in Sparta, peace is not safety, it is preparation. Look around. The light is creeping in now, just a thread of gold unspooling across the peaks of the Taygetus mountains. The earth below begins to shift from black to brown to red, the color of rust, of blood, of clay baked by centuries of sun. The air smells of dust and rosemary, of wild thyme and sweat. A shepherd's crook leans against a tree. A child's wooden sword lies abandoned near the river's edge. Even in this sacred silence, you feel it, the readiness. You are not alone here. They are watching. From behind those trees. Beyond the bend in the river. Across the fields where olive trees stretch their twisted limbs. Somewhere in the shadowed distance, a young boy is running barefoot through the dawn, spear balanced in hand, silent as a shadow. Somewhere, a mother is rising from her bed of rushes, tightening her belt, feeding the fire, already preparing the day's grains with the same quiet rigor she might ready a son for war. And somewhere, deeper in the city itself, a man, leathery-skinned, eyes like flint, is strapping on a crimson cloak. He does not check his blade. He does not need to. It is always ready. This land doesn't simply create warriors. It demands them. You descend now, down a narrow goat path into the valley. Dust rises with every step. The birds are waking, chirps and calls rising like a choir to greet the sun. But still, the overwhelming feeling is restrained. Spartan. Even nature here seems to hold its breath. Geography is not an afterthought in Sparta, it is the forge. This land, surrounded by mountains on 3 sides and the sea on the 4th, is almost impenetrable. Laconia is a natural fortress, hemmed in by the harsh ridges of the Taygetos and Parnon ranges. Isolation is not a flaw here, it is the beginning of everything. Other Greek city-states trade. They debate. They build sprawling empires through alliances and politics. Sparta? Sparta trains. From the earliest days of its foundation, this strange, disciplined city turned its back on the chaos of the wider world. It would not grow fat on trade, or fashion itself into a cultural beacon like Athens. It would not chase silver, or drama, or poetry. It would chase only one thing: endurance. And that pursuit? It sculpted every stone of Spartan society. Pause with me. Imagine standing barefoot on the cold stones of a Spartan training ground. Your breath fogs in the morning air. Around you, the sound of grunts, of wood against wood, of sandaled feet thudding against packed earth. Boys, no older than 12, are locked in combat, sweat and blood streaking their brows. They move not with rage but with control, with focus. A Spartan does not fight to win glory. He fights so the city may live. You look up. The temple of Artemis Orthia stands nearby, simple, stern, sacred. The goddess of the hunt. Protector of youth. She watches all. And so does the state. In Sparta, the city is everything. Your family, your desires, your ambitions, these are not yours. They belong to Lacedaemon, the name Spartans used when speaking of their city-state with reverence. To be a Spartan is to serve. That is your purpose from the moment you take your first breath to the moment you fall in battle. And make no mistake, Sparta does not expect you to die of old age. But how did such a society take root here? To understand that, we must return to the beginning. Long ago, before Sparta was Sparta, this valley was home to scattered Dorian tribes, hard folk who crossed the mountains and settled near the river. In time, 5 small villages joined together, forging a new kind of unity. They formed not just a city, but a military alliance, a living, breathing organism whose survival depended on strength. But as the city grew, so too did its hunger for land. And just south of Sparta lay Messenia, a fertile region ripe with grain and labor. The Spartans conquered it in a brutal campaign that would last years. And when it was over, they faced the problem: what to do with the conquered. They did not kill them. They did not enslave them in the traditional Greek sense. Instead, they created the Helot class. The Helots, native Messenians and others, became serfs, bound to the land, forced to farm and feed the Spartan state. Their labor fueled the Spartan war machine. But their numbers vastly outstripped their masters. And so the Spartans turned their entire society into a permanent boot on the neck of rebellion. They trained, every day, in case the Helots rose. They lived with the knowledge that they were surrounded by enemies. This is the soul of Sparta, not love of conquest, but fear of collapse. A society forged in steel, sharpened by necessity. Now walk with me. We're entering the city itself. There are no towering marble structures here. No showy acropolis, no massive theaters. Sparta is a city of shadows and stone, low buildings and wide training grounds. Even the temples are plain, almost severe in their lack of ornament. Everything is functional. Everything is disciplined. Even the streets seem to march in formation. Here, the sun rises not to greet idle philosophers but to rouse the young to drill, to chant, to harden themselves. The clang of bronze echoes down the alleys. You pass a group of girls, barefoot, laughing, racing each other across the dusty square. Strong legs. Clear eyes. They are not raised to sit in silence. They are not ornaments. They will not be meek. In Sparta, even daughters are daughters of war. And over there, see them? Men in crimson cloaks. Veterans, watching the youth with hawk eyes. They nod slowly, approvingly. These are men who have seen the fire of battle and return not with triumph, but with silence. In Sparta, you do not boast. You endure. Let your fingers brush the wall beside you. Rough stone. Cold to the touch. This place was not built for comfort. It was built to outlast. The wind picks up, carrying with it the smell of olive oil, leather, and sweat. A boy limps past you, arm in a sling, a faint smear of blood on his knee. He does not cry. He does not even look at you. He keeps walking. And you begin to understand. Here, even pain serves a purpose. We'll pause here. Just for a moment. The sun is high now. The river glints with light like spilled armor. The mountains stand steady, unmoved, as they have for centuries. But something inside you is shifting. You feel it, don't you? This land does not offer comfort. It offers clarity. It strips away what is unnecessary. It leaves only what is essential. Discipline. Strength. Sacrifice. In Sparta, the question is never, "What do you want?" but always, "What do you offer?" And if your answer is anything less than everything, then you do not belong. Are you ready to go deeper? Then follow me. The barracks wait. And the children are already training. Because in Sparta, even boyhood is a battlefield. The sun climbs higher now, casting long, clean shadows across the red soil of Laconia. The air sharpens, not in cruelty, but in clarity. You walk beside a line of young men running barefoot in the dust, their breathing rhythmic, their eyes fixed forward. They don't glance at you. They don't slow. They are not running for sport. They are running because it is required. Because in Sparta, you belong to the state. Not in part. In whole. Your thoughts. Your body. Your future. They are not yours to shape. They are tools, on loan to you, for as long as you can keep them sharp. The moment they dull, they are returned to the state. Or discarded. You pause beside a narrow stream. The water trickles calmly through a gully worn deep by centuries. Clear. Purposeful. It reminds you of the Spartans themselves, quiet, disciplined, flowing where they are told, shaping the land not with noise, but with persistence. Across the stream, two boys are wrestling. Not playfully. One has a cut over his brow. Neither cries out. The older man beside them, a trainer, perhaps a former soldier, watches in silence. He will not step in. Pain is instruction. Hesitation is defeat. The victor rises, blood dripping down his cheek, and is given no praise. He will eat no more than the loser tonight. Spartan society is not built on reward. It is built on necessity. You walk onward, and the valley seems to breathe around you. Look at it. Austere. Ordered. Functional. The homes here are plain, their walls thick to hold out winter winds. No mosaics. No ornamentation. Only what is needed to survive, to endure, to serve. At the heart of it all, the Syssitia. The communal dining halls of Sparta, dark, echoing stone rooms where men eat not with family, but with brothers in arms. Here loyalty is tested. Conversation is blunt, stripped of flourish. The food is simple. Black broth, pork boiled in blood and vinegar. A taste many never forget, and few ever crave. But you eat it because it is your duty. Because to reject it is to reject equality. Luxury is treason. Excess is a disease. And in Sparta, illness is cut away before it spreads. You duck beneath a wooden beam into one such hall. The fire pit smolders faintly, sending smoke curling into the rafters. Around it sit men of different ages. Scarred. Muscled. Silent. They nod once as you pass, not in greeting, but in recognition. You are expected to pull your weight, contribute food, speak with honor. Fail at any of these, and you may be ejected. Publicly. Permanently. In Sparta, exile is not a place. It is a slow death by shame. The Syssitia is not a dinner table. It is a crucible. Here men learn to live as one. Because in the phalanx, individuality is death. But it goes beyond the battlefield. Spartan law, so strange to outsiders, is built on the bones of obedience. At the top sits the Gerousia, the council of elders, men over 60 who have proven their wisdom and loyalty through decades of service. They guide the laws. They shape the future. And even they answer to something older, the Retra. The great Retra, part law code, part oracle-born decree, is the invisible skeleton of Spartan life. Attributed to Lycurgus, the almost mythical lawgiver, it governs everything from warfare to hairstyles. It tells Spartans when to plant and when to kill, when to feast and when to withhold. And above all, it tells them one truth: the needs of the state are absolute. Even kings bow before it. Yes, kings. Sparta is ruled not by one monarch, but by two. A dual kingship drawn from separate royal lines. A strange arrangement to foreign eyes, but to the Spartans it is balance. One king may lead an army to war, while the other stays behind to guard the city. Neither holds unchecked power. They are rulers, yes, but also servants. And beside them, the Ephors. 5 elected officials who serve for a single year, tasked with watching the kings, overseeing the agoge, judging disputes, and controlling foreign policy. Here, in Sparta, no one is above scrutiny. Every citizen is seen, measured, judged. And if you falter? If you hesitate in battle, or speak out of turn in the assembly, or show cowardice? There are no gentle warnings. There is only disgrace. You pass by a gathering in the agora, the public square. But this is no marketplace like in Athens. No vendors crying out, no poets arguing politics. The agora in Sparta is spare. The ground is swept clean. Men speak in low voices. Declarations are made, not debated. Decisions come not from rhetoric, but from ritual, from tradition, from memory. They vote not with ballots, but with shouting. Yes, shouting. A candidate is proposed, and the assembly yells in approval or silence. The volume of support is measured not by ears, but by hidden judges who determine, without seeing, who had the louder cheer. It is as absurd as it is unshakable. Spartans do not question the method, because questioning is not the Spartan way. Now walk with me through the outer edges of the city. Here, helots bend low in the fields, harvesting grain for masters they do not see. Their backs are bent not by age, but by submission. They outnumber the Spartans many times over. But they do not rise. Why? Because every Spartan is trained from childhood to keep them afraid. The fear is cultivated, maintained, ritualized. Each year, the Ephors declare war on the helots, formally, so that they may be killed without legal penalty. Not in open battle, but in silence, in darkness. It is not war. It is control. And the perioikoi? Ah, the dwellers around, free men who are not citizens. They live in the outlying villages, craft weapons, trade goods, provide what Sparta itself refuses to do. They are tolerated, respected, useful, but never equals. Only true Spartans, homoi, the equals, may serve in the army, eat in the Syssitia, vote in the assembly. But make no mistake, equals does not mean fair. In Sparta, equality exists only among warriors. And even then, only if you earn it. We pause near the temple of Athena Chalkioikos, the bronze house of the goddess. Its roof gleams in the sun. Here, prayers are offered not for wealth, or love, or victory in poetry contests. Here, they ask for strength, for clarity, for the favor of gods who respect order above chaos. A priestess passes, head bowed, eyes distant. Even in faith, Spartans are disciplined. This is not the chaotic pantheon of passion seen elsewhere in Greece. This is religion as stability, as tradition, as law. And now, as dusk begins to stretch across the valley, you feel it again, that tightening in the chest, that sense that every movement here is watched, every moment measured. To live in Sparta is to perform, even when alone. Because someone, somewhere, is always judging. But it is not fear that shapes these people. It is pride. To be born Spartan is to carry an invisible standard, to be worthy of the legacy behind you, and the brother beside you. To put Sparta before self. Always. As you leave the city walls behind, climbing a small rise overlooking the valley, the sun spills gold across the fields. Boys are still drilling. Girls are still racing. Elders speak softly beneath an olive tree. No one lounges. No one idles. Every heartbeat is bent toward the collective. Every step measured by the code. And somewhere, beyond that distant ridge, the helots watch the same sunset, their future never their own. This is Sparta. A people in service to the state. And tomorrow, the youngest among them will take their first step into the barracks, into a life not of choice, but of expectation. And you? You're going with them. Because the state does not wait. And in Sparta, childhood ends at 7. And that's exactly where we're going to go, childhood. The sun rises over Laconia once more. Its light spreads slowly over the valley like a hand brushing dust from old stone. It kisses the roofs of the barracks, filters through olive branches, and paints the river's surface in molten gold. But for one group of children, this dawn is not gentle. It is a dividing line. At the 7th year of life, a boy ceases to belong to his family. He now belongs to Sparta. And this morning, beneath a pale blue sky and the cold eyes of the state, he will be taken. You stand among the mothers. They do not weep. Their jaws are set, their eyes dry. Emotion, here, is a private affair. And in Sparta, even privacy is a luxury rarely permitted. One woman kneels, brushing her son's shoulder with the flat of her hand. She says nothing. No farewell. No words of comfort. The boy doesn't look back. He cannot. To turn is weakness. And weakness has no place in the agoge. Come closer now. Walk among the children. Some are thin, their limbs wiry, their eyes wide with unspoken questions. Others are already hardened, marked by brothers' punches and fathers' expectations. All wear the same coarse tunic. All are barefoot. They stand in lines, arranged by age, by class, by destiny. And then the instructors come. Veterans with eyes like weathered stone. They move without haste. No smiles. No introductions. Only nods. One claps his hands once, and the lines begin to move. Just like that, childhood ends. The agoge, Sparta's state education system, is unlike any other in the ancient world. It does not teach poetry. It does not teach arithmetic. It teaches pain, and silence, and obedience. For the next 13 years, these boys will live in barracks, sleep in groups, eat sparingly, and train constantly. They will be beaten, not cruelly, but deliberately. They will be tested, not to pass, but to endure. They will be shaped, not into men, but into Spartans. Let us follow them. Their first lesson begins before breakfast. It is not how to march, or hold a spear. It is how to say nothing. Silence is prized above chatter. Speech is measured. Wit is sharpened like a blade. In Sparta, a clever insult is worth more than a clever poem. Boys are encouraged to mock each other, but with restraint, precision, control. Language is a weapon. Like all weapons, it must be mastered. The boy who speaks too much is corrected. Swiftly. Publicly. And the correction is physical. Breakfast is a thin porridge. Not enough. Never enough. Hunger is a teacher here. The boys are encouraged to steal, but only if they're not caught. Success means cunning. Failure means lashes. The lesson? Be resourceful. Be invisible. Be efficient. You watch a boy creep from the kitchen, a fig in his palm. His eyes dart left then right. He is caught. The fig is taken. And so is his dignity, stripped with a beating that is brief, brutal, and coldly executed. No one comforts him. No one cheers. This is not punishment. It is preparation. Now watch the day unfold. Combat drills in the dust. Wrestling. Shield formations. Endurance runs. Bare feet blistered on hot stone. Sand in the mouth. Sweat stinging young eyes. But the eyes do not weep. To cry is to shame the group. At midday the sun burns. Boys collapse, vomit, scrape knees and keep moving. They learn to fall silently, to rise quickly, to press forward without complaint. Instructors move among them like wolves. Always watching. Always waiting for the one who falters. That boy will train harder tomorrow. But the agoge is not only physical. In the evenings the boys sit in a circle. A senior leads riddles and stories, lessons in disguise. They are taught the tales of Spartan heroes. Leonidas, Brasidas, Aristodemus. They learn not just what happened, but what should have happened. The right choice. The honorable death. The mistake never to repeat. History here is not memory. It is doctrine. A code of conduct written in blood. The nights are cold. The boys sleep on pallets of reeds they have cut themselves. No blankets. No pillows. Only each other's body heat. They curl in tight groups, like dogs in winter. Their tunics are worn. Their feet cracked. Their dreams, if they come at all, are brief and silent. Comfort is weakness. Softness breeds failure. And failure in Sparta is not merely personal. It is treason. But what of the girls? Ah, do not mistake their absence for neglect. Spartan girls are not hidden. They are not cloistered behind veils or trapped in spinning rooms. They are running. They are wrestling. They are training. Because a strong warrior must be born from a strong mother. The girls are taught music, yes, but also javelin. They dance, yes, but also hurl discus. Their limbs are lithe, their lungs strong. They are expected to grow tall and proud, to give birth not just to children, but to soldiers. One Spartan queen once declared, "Only Spartan women give birth to real men." And it was not a boast. It was a challenge. You watch two girls race along the river's edge, feet flying across the stones. Their laughter is sharp and bright, like the crack of a sling stone in flight. They do not pause for the watching boys. They do not care who sees. They are Spartans too, and their role is no less sacred. Back in the barracks, the boys chant before bed. Not hymns. Not lullabies. They chant war songs. They chant of Thermopylae, of broken shields and unbroken wills. They chant of the honor of dying in formation, of the shame of surviving alone. Their voices rise in the dusk, young and raw and trembling. But not with fear. With anticipation. One day, they will stand in the phalanx. One day, they will earn their place at the Syssitia. One day, they will make their mothers proud. Not with words, but with blood. And what of love? What of affection? In the barracks, bonds form, not of sentimentality, but of necessity. Older boys mentor younger ones. They protect. They instruct. They punish. These relationships, sometimes platonic, sometimes erotic, are regulated, even encouraged by the state. But only if they build loyalty. Only if they sharpen the edge of discipline. Love, here, is not for comfort. It is for cohesion. The bonds forged in these years will one day hold the phalanx together under Persian arrows, beneath Macedonian spears, against enemies seen and unseen. You sit now beside a fire, a quiet place on the edge of camp. One boy, older than the rest, leans forward, his face lit by flame. He tells a story, not of gods, but of a friend. A boy who didn't speak enough, who moved too slowly, who was taken away. No one saw him again. The boy pauses, and the silence stretches. You understand. Sparta does not mourn the fallen. It trains the survivors. Above you, the stars prick through the sky like spear points. The barracks are quiet now. Inside, young warriors sleep, some bruised, some bloodied, all dreaming of the day they will stand shoulder to shoulder with the men whose names they chant. They do not dream of ease. They do not dream of escape. They dream of being enough. And that, here, is the highest dream of all. Tomorrow, their trials will deepen. Tonight, let us walk once more beneath the trees, where shadows stretch long across the dust, and the hush of night gathers like breath before a storm. Listen to the stillness, not of peace, but of something being forged, just beneath the skin. Not just children, but Spartans in the making. And when the sun rises again over the red hills of Laconia, it will not rise on boys. It will rise on initiates, called to the long road of endurance, silence, and survival. The agoge waits, and the true shaping begins. The earth is hard beneath your feet. Not unkind, but honest. Spartan soil does not yield easily to the hand or the plow, and neither do its children. You are back now, among them. The boys. The ones who remained. The ones who endured the first steps of the state's claim. They are no longer sons, brothers, or students. They are initiates, embarked upon a path older than their fathers. The agoge. It is more than training. It is a crucifixion of comfort. A rebirth through hardship. A grinding down of self until only Spartan remains. Listen closely. The day begins with pain, not as punishment, but as routine. Boys leap from their reed beds before the sun rises. No blankets, no complaints. They wash in cold water, sometimes icy runoff from the Taygetos mountains. The sting in their skin is part of the waking. Warmth is a luxury. Pain, a companion. They eat little. A handful of barley, a strip of goat cheese. Enough to function. Never enough to grow soft. They run miles barefoot, across gravel paths, through olive groves, up red clay slopes slick with dew. They return, breathing like winded dogs, only to begin again. Because here, every day is a trial. And every trial is preparation. You walk beside one now. His name is not important. That's part of the lesson. In Sparta, you are not your name. You are your use. Your service. Your loyalty. This boy has not spoken in 3 days, not because he's mute, but because he hasn't earned the right. His instructor watches him with hawk eyes. Every gesture is noted. Every mistake punished. Not cruelly. Just consistently. The agoge is not about beating boys into men. It's about burning away everything else. And the curriculum? It would bewilder an Athenian. There are no lectures on rhetoric. No debates. No books. Instead, games. Brutal, exhausting games. Wrestling in the dust. Stick fighting. Stealing from kitchens under threat of lashes. mock battles with shields too heavy for their frames. Team challenges that test strategy and silence more than speed. One group must carry a teammate up a slope without speaking. Another must solve a riddle under duress. Another is told to find a way into a locked storehouse and return with food. But if they're caught? If they fail? The beatings come swiftly. Not in anger. Not to wound. Only to remind. At night their bodies hum with bruises. But they do not cry. Crying is weakness. And weakness, in the agoge, spreads like rot. Instead, they whisper to each other, sharing tricks, repeating the stories passed down from older initiates. The time one boy stole a cooked hare and hid it in his tunic for a week. The one who answered a question with such sharp wit he earned a place beside an officer. And the one who died from an infected cut, and was still praised for dying without a sound. These are their textbooks. Scars. Fables. Silences. Older boys are given authority over younger ones. It is not mentorship. It is dominance. The older boys enforce discipline with fists, with commands, with examples. They teach without compassion. But sometimes, behind closed eyes, you see tenderness. A hand on a shoulder. A whisper of encouragement. A shared crust of bread under cover of night. Because even in this crucible, humanity flickers. Once a year, they are brought to the altar of Artemis Orthia. The goddess demands blood. A public whipping. For some, it is a spectacle, parents watching from shaded steps, priests chanting. For the boys, it is a badge. A line of crimson drawn down the back. The lash does not kill. But neither does it show mercy. And if a boy cries, he does not return to the agoge. He is marked. Not as failed, but as incomplete. As they grow older, the tests grow stranger. 1 week, they are fed misinformation before a group exercise. The next, they are told to lead, then left to fail. They are taught not just to obey, but to think like the state. To anticipate betrayal. To endure humiliation. To love the city more than themselves. One night you witness a trial. 6 boys, now nearly men, are left in the forest. No fire. No food. 1 knife between them. They are told to return at dawn with meat. They say nothing. They simply move into the trees, silent as shadows. By morning, one returns limping. His tunic is torn. He carries a wild hare, barely cleaned. He says nothing of what happened. The others return hours later. No questions are asked. This is the agoge. There is no applause. Only progression. The final years are the most important. By 16, the boys are taller, stronger, leaner. They run faster. Strike harder. Think sharper. They've learned to live on less. To tolerate pain. To obey without question. But also, to lead. They are given responsibilities. Sent to monitor training. To oversee meals. To watch the perimeter of the city. The instructors vanish more and more. The agoge does not end with ceremony. There is no graduation. One day, they are boys. The next, they are expected to be men. No one tells them when the line is crossed. Because in Sparta, the line is always moving. And so the agoge takes them, one by one, and molds them into something cold, something bright, something terrible. Not men in the modern sense. Not scholars. Not traders. Not dreamers. But Spartans. Now step away. Leave the camp behind. Let the smell of sweat and stone fade from your senses. We walk next into a darker chapter. One not spoken of during the day. Where the eyes of the city cannot see. Where the state sends its sharpest blades to learn what it means to kill in silence. Not on the battlefield, but in the night. The Krypteia waits. There are paths in Sparta that bear no footprints. Not because no one walks them, but because those who do leave no trace. You've seen the boys grow, watched them run the gauntlet of the agoge. You've felt the sting of their silence, the weight of their discipline. By now they are near men, forged from dust and obedience, lean as wolves and twice as watchful. But there is a final path for some. A hidden crucible whispered about in low tones, never confirmed, never publicly named. It begins not with ceremony, but with absence. One night, a boy is there beside you in the barracks, arm bruised from sparring, breath slow in sleep. The next night, his bed is empty. No one speaks of it. No questions are asked. Because everyone knows. The Krypteia has begun. There are many in Sparta who complete the agoge. But only a few are chosen for this. The elite. The watchful. The ones whose loyalty burns so deep it has carved out room for silence. And ruthlessness. Because the Krypteia is not a promotion. It is a descent. Into shadows. Into lawlessness sanctioned by the state. Into an ancient game of predator and prey, where the only law is necessity, and the only compass is fear. You follow now, at a distance, through the olive groves outside the city. It is deep night, moonless, cloud-heavy, the kind of dark that eats the shape of things. No torch. No companions. The chosen boy moves barefoot, his tunic stained and coarse, a short blade hidden beneath its folds. He carries no food. No water. No orders. Because this is the test. To survive without being seen. To act without being told. To kill, without hesitation. They call it training. But let us not lie to ourselves tonight. This is terror made policy. Because the prey of the Krypteia are not beasts. They are helots, the enslaved majority of Sparta's population. Messenian farmers bound to land they cannot own, feeding a system that offers no path to freedom. The state fears them more than any army. And so, it keeps them afraid. The purpose of the Krypteia is twofold. To test the boy. And to control the masses. Each night, the chosen vanish into the countryside. They sleep in ditches, eat what they can steal, and move with the silence of ghosts. They observe. They listen. They wait. And when a helot speaks too boldly, when one stands too tall, gathers others, grows confident, he disappears. No trial. No punishment. No trace. Only a body found in the reeds. Or never found at all. The city says nothing. It never acknowledges these deaths. But the helots know. And that is the point. They whisper of eyes in the night, of silent knives, of boys who are not boys at all. And so they keep their heads low. Their voices quieter. Their hopes buried deep. You are there now, in the scrubland beyond the Eurotas. The ground is hard, the wind cold. The chosen boy crouches beside a goat path, eyes fixed on a flicker of lamplight in a distant hut. He has waited for hours. Patience is part of the lesson. He watches, listens, counts. Then, like a shadow drawn on the wind, he moves. We will not follow. Because this part is not for us. At dawn, he returns. His hands are scratched. His face unreadable. He does not report to anyone. He does not boast. He eats what he stole. And he rests, knowing that tomorrow he will do it again. For a year, perhaps longer. No one tracks time in the Krypteia. Only silence. And what becomes of them, those who survive? They return to Sparta, quiet and gaunt. No ceremony. No accolades. But something has changed behind their eyes. They walk slower. They speak less. They are given positions of command. Trusted to lead. Because the state knows, they have faced what most cannot. They have acted without approval. Killed without support. Lived without aid. They are not boys. They are weapons. And what of the cost? It shows sometimes. in the way they flinch at sudden movement, in how they stare too long at fires, as if remembering something left behind. The agoge burns the softness from you. But the Krypteia? It burns the soul. And yet, this is Sparta. This is how it survives. Through discipline. Through terror. Through silence in the dark. Come now. The sun rises over the valley once again. The helots bend low in their fields, eyes never straying too far from the trees. And above them, in the distance, the city stands proud, its soldiers drilling, its mothers praying, its sons training for whatever comes next. And among them walk those who have passed the hidden trial. You might not notice them, but they notice you. Because once you've lived in shadows, you never truly leave them. You stand on the plateau beyond Sparta's training grounds. The dawn stretches across the valley, not as light, but as a promise. Before you stand ranks of warriors, shoulder to shoulder, as still and silent as stone. Their shields overlap so tightly that there is no room for individuality. Only unity. This is the phalanx. Not simply a formation, but the beating heart of Spartan warfare. Shields clatter quietly as men shift, hips moving, feet scraping. Each hoplite grips his doru, a long spear, his first and truest weapon. Rough wood braced in his right hand, the Aspi's shield heavy on his left arm, hiding not just his body, but the neighbor to his left, his brother in arms. Together they weave an iron wall. Look closer. Each shield overlaps the next. Each man's breath is measured by the man before him. If one falters, all may fall. This is not chaos. It is choreography, a dance of will. When the phalanx advances, it does not march. It becomes one. Slowly. Methodically. Step after step, until the enemy feels the pressure, not just of steel, but of unwavering unity. Here is how it works. A single file runs forward, 8 or more deep. In Spartan tradition, files tighten in formation, leaning into their shields, their spears bristling outward like a forest of thorns. Every hoplite carries more than physical weight. A dory, about 7 to 9 feet long, around 1 to 2. 7 curved leaf blade pointed ahead. Behind it, a sword or tail spike, a promise of death for fallen foes or broken tools. The great Aspies, a round shield about 90 centimeters across, borne on the left arm, a fortress in bronze and wood. 4 to 16 men stand file, led by a Lochagos, supported by an Aragos in the rear, whose eye is on the line, whose voice holds the formation together. Picture the symphony of battle. You hear the war cries, alalagmos, bellowed not as thunder, but as precision. Minds sharpen in the din spears thrust. Shields lock tight. The first impact is a collision of wills. Spear meets shield. Backs hiss under pressure, ranks shudder. As spears break, the back ranks drive forward. Othismos, the push. Center of gravity becomes center of victory. Every man presses forward, living or dead. Eyes turn away. Heart steady. You feel the earth tremble. Now sense the adaptability. The Spartan phalanx fights where land is flat, open plains that allow rank to hold. In cramped hills? The formation frays. But where it stands firm, it becomes unstoppable. Recall Thermopylae. 300 Spartans stood at the narrow pass, shoulder to shoulder, edging back only when forced. Each spear extended, shield overlapped. Each heartbeat measured not by fear, but by the promise to defy. The phalanx's might is more than metal, it is unbreakable unity. But battle is not static. At Leuctra, the Thebans changed the rules. They deepened their left flank to 50 men, collapsing the Spartan right with force and depth. The rigid formation shattered, not through a hole, but through pressure. Spartans fell, not from lack of strength, but from something they could never have anticipated. It was a lesson in evolution. Even the greatest formation can be broken, not just with steel, but with strategy. After the classical age, the phalanx evolved. Philip of Macedon, the student-turned-innovator, extended the spear to nearly 6 meters. A Macedonian phalangite wielded it with both hands, his shield smaller, strapped, freeing his grip for the longer reach. Rows of gleaming sarissas bristled outward, 5 deep, then angled rows warding off arrows. The wall moved not by foot, but by timber thrust. But Sparta? Spartans remained with their doru and aspies. Tradition sharpened, not diluted. Close your eyes. Hear the metallic thunder. Feel the crush behind the first line as brother ties to brother, forming an unbroken wall. See the enemy falter, first as form then as flesh. The Spartan phalanx is not hope. It is certainty. Each step a vow. Each shield a promise. Yet even this is not invincible. At Laconia, Athenians used lighter troops, bows and javelins, to fracture Spartan pride. They danced around the edges, eroded formation. When spears broke, Spartans bled. The phalanx, steadfast as it is, cannot breathe. If pressed, if encircled, if its cohesion breaks, it collapses. Its glory is in its discipline, not its flexibility. Walk with me now, beyond the clack of shields. The training fields lay empty. Spears and shields lean against stone. Men sit wounded not by bullets, but by betrayal of form. Phalanx is war made ritual. And ritual is what holds them together when steel fails. Today, the phalanx remains mythic, a testament not just to Spartan arms, but to the power of collective will. It stands in memory, in history, in the stones of Laconia. But most of all, it stands in the silence between warriors, the unspoken vow that we hold, even when hope is gone. Now let's move on to an exciting study of weapons such as the Doru's spear, the short Siphos sword, the famous Aspi's shield, and others. We will examine how these weapons were not only functional but also symbolic, having great significance for both the phalanx and the heart. You stand among silent figures, Spartan hoplites, arrayed before battle. Their shapes are defined by the weapons they carry and the armor they bear. Each element is no mere tool, it is an extension of duty, a shard of identity. First, feel the long reach of the doru, the main weapon of the Spartan hoplite. It stretches over 2 meters, long enough to thrust from the back ranks too. Crafted from wood capped with a leaf-shaped iron blade, its rear counterweight is a butt spike called the soroder, a lizard killer, both balance and last resort blade. In the heat of the phalanx, the doru was not thrown, it was a barrel of disciplined electricity, powerful in unison. Behind the shield wall, its reach let spearheads rain down while remaining just out of retaliation's grasp. When the enemy breached the forest of spears, the Xiphos took over. A short, one-handed, double-edged sword, typically 40 to 60 centimeters in length, but Spartan versions were even shorter at 30 to 45 centimeters, crafted for lethal efficiency in cramped lines. Imagine the phalanx crushed together, shields overlapping, spears breaking. That is when the Xiphos becomes deadly, a quick stab into a gap beneath armor, into a groin or neck. As Plutarch records, when a Spartan questioned the blade's brevity, he was told simply to step closer to the enemy. But no weapon was more revered than the Aspi's, the heavy, circular shield carried on the left arm. Over 90 centimeters across and weighing around 7 to 15 kilograms, it was built in layers, wood core, leather interior, bronze face, strong yet ergonomically designed to rest on the shoulder. This shield did not defend just one man, but many. It wrapped protection around its bearer and left shoulder, safeguarding his neighbor, forming an unbroken wall. Losing it was the utmost disgrace. Ipsaspia, dropping the shield, was synonymous with desertion. A Spartan mother might say, "Return with this or on it, victor or dead, but never without it." Beyond weapons, Spartans donned armor that balanced defense and identity. Many wore bronze or linen cuirasses, such as the linothorax, helmet types like the Corinthian. But more symbolic was the crimson tunic and cloak, a bold declaration of Spartan identity, worn even in battle. These colors hid blood, masked wounds, and unified the line, a living, breathing phalanx cloaked in red. These weapons and armor were not mere items, they was legacies. Shields passed from father to son, carrying family and martial honor. Sustain the line, they carried not just your flesh, but your ancestors' memory. The lambda, painted on each shield signaled unity, Lacedaemon breathing in every formation. Now, feel your fingers graze the bronze rim of an aspis, the cold metal resonating with history. Smell faint ash of oils used to preserve wood. Underhand grip of the doru vibrates with readiness, the leather of the xiphos hilt warm from the warrior's contact. Hear the muted thunder of feet as ranks shift, shields creaking. Taste the dust that gathers beneath your nostrils as you stand shoulder to shoulder with brothers. These are not abstractions. They are flesh, bone, and breath, instruments of defense, discipline, and death. As we step away from the armory and the campfires, consider how each piece spoke of Spartan values, endurance, unity, heritage. Weapons were not flamboyant. They were forged for phalanx and purpose. And beyond battle, they became metaphors. The doru, reach, discipline, shared strength. The xiphos, the brutal intimacy of war. The aspis, community, sacrifice, identity. As you wipe sand from your hands and feel the sheen of dawn on your weapons, walk with me next into the symbols, the red cloak, the crimson halo of the lambda. How color became armor of spirit and covenant of courage. The horizon glows with a gentle burn, dawn spilling fire over stone and olive. You are amidst Spartans rising for another day of discipline and sweat. Their crimson cloaks catch the light, a flicker of red rising from the dust, unbroken, unyielding. In Sparta, color carries meaning. Spartans wore red cloaks not for style, but for survival, mental, emotional, and martial. This crimson was more than dye. It was intent in fabric. It hid wounds, blood blended into the folds, unreadable to enemy eyes and comforting to the bearer and his neighbor. You wouldn't see a struggling comrade, only crimson strength marching beside you. The color unified them, draped over shoulders. It turned individuals into a shared force, a cohesive phalanx of blood and purpose. You feel its weight now, rich, dark, heavy with promise. As Xenophon described, Spartans maintained a uniform battle dress, likely a tunic rather than cloak, in deep red, practical but potent, subtle yet striking. Now shift your gaze to the shield, a circle of strength, painted with the Greek letter lambda for Laconia, for Lacedaemon, for home. This is no mere decoration. It is a loud affirmation in silent script. The lambda began appearing around the Peloponnesian War, a deliberate choice, turning each warrior's gear into an emblem of collective identity. When enemies faced the shield wall, they saw not just armor but allegiance, unity in symbol. In a world where some city-states bore personal or mythical motifs, Sparta chose uniformity. The lambda broadcasted, "We stand as one." Red cloak conceals fear, disguises injury, signals readiness. Lambda shield proclaims origin, amplifies unity, brands the bearer. Together, they form a visual oath: no surrender, no shame. Imagine the hush before battle, the whisper of cloth, the metallic ring of shield contacts. You move shoulder to shoulder, the red tide rising, the lambdas aligned. Fear dulls. You breathe not for yourself, but for the line, the city, the legacy. Run your hand along the cloak's hem, feel the cooler threads where blood has rubbed, smell the faint tang of iron. Rest your palm on the bronze edge of the shield. Brace for weight, touch the painted symbol bold against bronze, feel its story. You taste grit lingering in the air. Hear the low hum of training feet striking dust. Your heart sinks to the silent march, every beat a shared rhythm. This is not spectacle. This is substance. leave the field behind, cloak rustling as you walk away from the alignment of shields. The red gathers dust, the lambda fades into memory, but their imprint lingers. Next, we step closer, into the living bond of shoulder-to-shoulder warriors. Brotherhood and loyalty awaits, where trust is forged not in speeches, but in shared breaths, shared shields, and shared fate. You step into the Syssitia just as the evening light gathers in its last warmth against stone. The hall is expansive but austere, long wooden tables illuminated by low flames, the air thick with barley, blood bread, the tang of wine and iron. Here, in silence and simplicity, they dine, the men of Sparta, not as individuals, but as brothers of blood and bond. This is no feast. It is a covenant. You squeeze into your place amid the others, the steadiness of bodies like bricks fitting in a wall. No laughter booms. No boasting rises. They eat quietly, black broth, sour, sharp, necessary, as if every spoonful draws them closer, molding their silence into shared strength. In this hall, speech is sparse, measured. Men listen, not because they must, but because they belong. One man pours wine from a single jug into cups pressed into hands, no flourish. No glinting pride. Just trust. Herodotus said that Spartans who dined together fought with more bravery and a keener sense of shame than would have been the case with chance comrades. A bond born of bread and bare sincerity, not spectacle. You look beside you and catch a breath in someone's eyes, not mocking, not threatening, but steady. You know this man will not fail. Not to you. Not ever. The night spills out into training fields beyond the hall, the air now electric with quiet fear and discipline. You walk between rows of spears and shields lined against stone. A low chant, nearly a whisper, rises, names of ancestors, bloodlines, victories, defeats. You see tears glimmer in eyes that will not shirk or waver. They eat, they stand, they wait. This is not bravado. This is union. As an observer once reflected, loyalty was paramount. A phalanx was only as strong as its weakest link, and Spartans would not allow that link to falter. You feel the tension prick your skin, tension not of discord, but of readiness. If a line stands firm here, it will not cower there. Battle comes, sword clash, breath ragged, shields battered. And sometimes men fall. Later, you enter the hall again, candles guttering in silent air. The silence now is not stoicism, it is grief. A plate left untouched. A cup held by someone who knows a body will never return. No one speaks. No hymn rises. Yet in the hush, each man offers more than words could muster. One stands, embraces another, brief. Gentle. A silent pact. I see your loss. I hold your grief. You are not alone. This unspoken comfort is deeper than any promise sworn. Spartan boys joined the Syssitia by 20, after the rigors of the agoge. These dining halls were more than messes. They were schools in equality, endurance, and bond. No absence, no excuses. No partial payment. If a man could not meet his duty, he lost his place. In the low lighting you sense wings of kinship, generation on generation passing down steadiness. Elders pause in their stories, not to teach, but to listen. Younger men lean forward, not for flattery, but for meaning. Here, every meal is a core memory. Every glance a promise. Every swallow a shared life. Beyond the mess hall, in the hush before dawn, you see formations practice. The words spoken are few. A nod. A repositioning of shields. In those shared moments, arms brushing, breath synchronized, eyes aligned, you see more loyalty than any proclamation could carry. This is brotherhood. You remember the saying, they don't fight for glory. They fight to save the man beside them. For every step forward, there is a foot behind supporting. For every blade that falls, another stands. Sensory tapestry of brotherhood. Smell. the mouth note of salt, stale olives, smoke from spit-roasted meat long gone, lingering in stone walls. Touch, the press of a shoulder when elbow to elbow, a hand brushing another's in muted ritual. Sound, the gentle clink of cups, feet padding in formation, the hush thick with unspoken things. This is Spartan life's marrow, a bond lived, not declared. You step out of the hall, the night cool and clear. The stars are sharp, the valley sleeping. But brothers, those who dined, fought, mourned together, stand watch. They hold the darkness so none among them will ever fall alone. Ahead, the path winds upward toward Laconia's peaks. There, beyond unity, rises legend. You walk at first light through olive groves where the air waves gentle as silk. Slender forms emerge, Spartan women, poised between dawn and shadow, sunlight glimmering on their copper tones. Their voices are low, their laughter rare, but their presence is a firm statement. You feel the quiet confidence in their stride. This is not a moment of repose. This is strength. Deliberate. Sovereign. Spartan girls are not shielded from toughness. They are forged by it. They run barefoot across packed earth, muscles singing with effort, lungs growing faithful with resilience. They wrestle, arms locked, breath measured, victory in control, not force. They launch javelins and discuss, each arc measured, each throw echoing intent. They are raised to be fertile in body and indomitable in spirit, so their sons, born of strength, may rise unbroken. But education for Spartan women was not purely physical. They learned music, dance, and poetry, not frivolous arts, but tools of intellectual harmony and cultural continuity. Elite women such as Gorgo, Queen of Sparta, were versed in both athletic and academic disciplines. She is one of the few Spartan women named in the ancient histories, famed for her insight and forthright intelligence. When a foreign woman asked why Spartan women ruled their men, Gorgo replied, "Because we are the only women who give birth to men." Her counsel was sharper than any blade. When Spartan envoys failed to recognize a wax-sealed warning of Persian invasion written on a wooden tablet, Gorgo admonished them to strip away the wax. Her wisdom saved Sparta from oblivion. As men marched away to endless drills and crises, Spartan women remained, managing estates, commanding resources, and shaping the city through quiet power. They inherited property, controlled wealth, and oversaw the daily operations, rites unimaginable in most of Greece. In Sparta, land passed not just to sons but to daughters, patroichoi, heiresses who held their patrimony in their own names and chose when and whom to marry. Their autonomy was guarded by law, and even the kings played guardian in disputes over unmarried heiresses. This economic agency gave them leverage in a patriarchal society. They were not invisible or dependent, but essential. In every home stood women bred for endurance, unity, and sacrifice. They married later than in other Greek cities, often around age 18 to 20, to ensure their bodies and minds were fit for motherhood of Spartiate sons, not property to be transferred as children. Husbands, bound to military life, lived apart until age 30. Women managed households and raised children, crafting future warriors through both nurturing and discipline. One mother placed the shield in her son's hand and said not, "Come back alive," but, "Return with it, or on it." Her words were not poetry, but a compact with destiny. Strength and lineage culminated in glories few women, or even men, achieved. Cynisca, daughter of King Archidamus II, broke the Olympic barrier. In 396 BC, she became the first woman to win at the Olympic Games. Victorious in chariot races she organized and funded, her triumph not just athletic, but symbolic. She declared, "Kings of Sparta are my father and brothers. I, Cynisca, victorious with a chariot of swift-footed horses, have erected this statue. I declare myself the only woman in all Hellas to have won this crown." Her victory was memorialized in bronze at Olympia, her statue standing alongside inscriptions that proclaimed her achievement and place amongst Sparta's honored few. A hero-facing shrine was erected in her name, a rare tribute for any woman. Inside Spartan walls, women stood as uncompromising pillars. They trained until the moment of labor, enduring hardships so their sons would tumble into war ready. Their fitness was not performative, but practical. Childbirth was another measured endurance, another battlefield to win. In this resilience, many scholars suggest, rape was rarer than in other Greek cities, an effect of physical strength and cultural expectation of respect, not dominance. They remained literate and educated, not for civic participation. They could not vote or hold office, but to shape minds and lineages. Imagine an evening in a Laconian courtyard. A Spartan woman winds flax for the next day's training. The scent of oil drifts across her skin, mixed with sweat from the run and the earth's cool breath. Her children sleep in a corner, chests rising in disciplined harmony. A whisper of strategy emerges, concerns for land taxes, for Helot unrest, for the next generation's fate. She consults her mind as keenly as any general does a map. She speaks measured. She commands quietly. This is not power abstracted. It is daily, lived, and sustaining. The Spartan woman is the silent sentinel behind the phalanx. Her red cloak and lambda may not be visible, but they rest in her bones. She passed down discipline, resilience, and resolve by blood, not decree. Her victory carved in marble and bronze may be rare, but her influence forged every warrior, every frontier, every fulfilled prophecy of Sparta. You step away, the sun rising over Laconia's hills, the valley woke to women's footsteps and endurance. Behind you lingers the iron certainty that while the phalanx may fall in battle, Sparta endures through mothers, daughters, and the blood they harvest from soft earth and stubborn stone. You awake to the hush of Laconia, where stone houses stand low and unadorned, and luxury is a suspicion. Spartan homes are not built to impress, they exist to endure. Walls are thick, rooms are few. Furniture is humble, a simple bed of woven reeds, a shelf for tools and bowls, a table used more for leaning than feasting. Here, nothing is needless. Every object, every space serves a purpose. This is not poverty. This is purity. Step inside a Spartan home. Walls, a pale ochre softened by morning light. A hearth built of local stone, emitting warmth that does not demand decoration. Clay floor cool beneath your bare feet. Not a tapestry in sight, not because they lacked art, but because art distracted from discipline. Lycurgus himself imposed sumptuary laws, discouraging lavish interiors, forbidding foreign artisans, and promoting this stripped-down aesthetic as part of an ideology of self-restraint and unity. A Spartan woman needs dough, her arms strong, her movements measured. She doesn't stir in spice or honey. This bread is meant to nourish, not delight. They live the maxim, minimal enough to focus on essentials, community, duty, endurance. One might expect Spartan kings to parade through marble halls. Instead, their homes are modest, built with restraint. Their cloaks may shimmer with crimson dye, yes, but their surroundings remain sober. Despite what non-Spartan sources may idealize, Spartan daily environments reflect the society's philosophical heart, not its occasional ceremonial grandeur. Here, bold color is reserved for the aspies, for the crimson cloak in battle, not for cushions or curtains. Night sets in and you make your way to the Syssitia, the communal dining hall where Spartan citizens gather. The hall is vast and echoing. Long benches and tables form rigid rows under torchlight, but the mood is reverent, not celebratory. Every citizen belongs to one mess group, roughly 15 men, bonded by silence, discipline, and shared bowls. This is not a banquet. It's a ritual of unity. You sit beside brothers, some scarred, some young, all silent, but present. They serve black broth, melas zomos, a soup of boiled pork blood, vinegar, and salt. No sauces. No frills. No excuses. Plutarch records that older Spartans dined only on this. letting younger men have the porcine meat. To outsiders, it was an insult. To Spartans, it was sustenance and symbol. It was discipline in a bowl, a curriculum in frugality. Some added barley bread, maza, to soften the austerity, but no more. You lift a bowl, its steam rising, and breathe in the scent, iron, earth, survival. There's no chatter. There's only shared presence. This is training, disguised as dinner. When you swallow the broth, you taste clarity. The murmured exchange of nourishment, not pleasures. A bond of hunger shared, a vow unspoken. The Spartan diet extends beyond broth. Cereal, barley mostly. Olives, cheese, figs. Perhaps dried fish or game if available, and then shared with discipline. Every Spartan contributes produce or money from his kleros to support the Syssitia. Helots toil on the land, and much of what they produce feeds the collective. This isn't charity. It's structured equality. You walk through daily life. Sunlight on tools. The rhythm of tasks, grinding grain, tending flocks, maintaining weapons. Silence that speaks. Expectations that slim the day to purpose. This is the lived austerity. The regime of self-restraint written into every heartbeat. Smell, vinegar tang, barley dust, wood smoke, muted sweat. Sound, bowl on stone quiet, feet echo in corridors, wind through olive limbs. Touch, wooden bench rough underhand, coarse tunic cool in morning, bowl warm at night. Every moment is essential. Every sensation grounded. You return home to the hush again. A final sip of water. The hearth dims. Rest comes from exhaustion and clarity. Not from comfort, but from certitude. Because in Spartan simplicity, purpose is comfort. You step outside, night has settled. Above, Teijito's silhouette looms. The silence is steady, but not empty. Ahead lies a different beat, where simplicity gives way to drumming feet and dancing torches, where discipline and delight intersect in ritual. You walk through Laconia's fields at dawn, guided by the distant beat of drums and soft chants carried on a warm breeze. The valley's sharp austerity softens here, for a moment, transformed by festival when Sparta breathes not war, but dance, hymn, and ancestral memory. For in Sparta, even celebration is forged of discipline. Your feet carry you to an open grove beyond the fields, where villagers cluster silently around altars carved from stone. It is Metageton, August, and the Carnea begins. For 9 days, all martial labor ceases. No campaign can begin. No sword can lift. The city holds intense reverence for Apollo Carneus. The festival blends agrarian rites, military pause, and ritual atonement, commemorating both the death of a seer and the sanctity of seasonal harvest. The story of Carneus, slain, lingers like a vow in the breeze. Here, silence speaks as loud as spears. At Amyclae, just beyond the city's shade, the hyacinthia unfolds in 3 unfolding breaths. On the first day, the air is hushed. You watch masked figures make simple sacrifices, goats only. Bread plain. The grief is communal, somber, a collective surrender to memory. Then light returns. Day 2 blooms with lute and chorus. Youths carry chariots, gilt and garlanded with wreaths of bloom, racing beneath strings of song. Women parade decorated carts. Helots too attend. It is one of the only festivals where they rise beside free men as participants. By the 3rd day, stoic ritual and quiet mysteries fade into leaving sunlit glances, soft farewells, and the threads of song that linger long after the carts have passed. Later in summer, Sparta stirs anew for the Gymnopaedia, 3 days of ritual dance, song, and fitness that cleanse war into art. Young men, bare, trained, proud, perform in the agora's open dance ground. Choral groups form an ascending lineage, old men chanting, then men in their prime, then boys still untested. Their voices rise, words sharp. We once did deeds of prowess. We are so now. We shall be stronger than both. The heat is merciless. Thousands watch. Yet there is no flinching. Only rhythm. Only pride. Sparta takes this festival more seriously than any other. Even in war, they hesitate to leave the city during gymnopedia. Music in Sparta is more than melody. It is law and lineage, teaching songs of Tyrtaeus and Alcman woven into every dance and chorus. Their poems live in muscle and breath, shaping warriors as much as any spear. Through these vocal rites, Sparta educates. It heals. It declares itself, steady, eternal, mastery in form and fidelity. You see young initiates clench hands. Elders lay hands on shoulders. Rhythm binds ranks beyond the phalanx, into festival. There is no cheering here. No revelry beyond restraint. They dance not for pleasure, but for alignment, with ancestors, with discipline, with city. At Plutarch's telling, when news of battle or death reached dancers, they were urged to hold grief hidden until song gave way. Loss is spoken of in silences between steps. Smell, wildflowers and dust. Singing pitch and sweat. Goat incense and oil. Sound song rising in layers. Chariots against stone. Whispered breathe before dance. Touch, palm on back, dust dry. Drumbeat rippling in chest. Cane fan at high sun. These festivals are not fillings. They are the frame. In every dance, every hymn and spear stilled, Sparta renews itself. Festival and war are siblings. Both require focus, sacrifice, and shared endurance. On festival days, the phalanx sleeps, but the city bonds. This unity sustains what steel alone cannot. As torches dim and the final chorus dies, the valley exhales. But ahead lies a darker chorus, not one of song, but of legend. You awaken in the hush before dawn, breath lingering like smoke among iron-rusted boulders. Before you, the pass of Thermopylae yawns, narrow, sacred, defined by the bones of those who made history here. They stand, not just warriors, but legends. Kings and citizens, memory and myth braided into one. This chapter begins amid their echoes. The name Leonidas means lion's son. It carries power before he ever raised a spear. He stands at the world's edge, at a place where time fractures between history and myth. He marches to Thermopylae not as a king alone, but as a standard of defiance, embodiment of Sparta itself. 300 Spartans, sometimes reimagined as a lone phalanx against waves of Persian steel, stood there. But let us hold to truth. They were not solitary. They were joined by thousands, Helots, Thespians, other Greek allies, who stayed out of loyalty or fate. What remains vivid, though, is the steadfast heart of the Spartan few. Myth gallops ahead of facts. The tale of Thermopylae glints like a blade, a brief stand, a lasting vow, molten laid. Come and take them. Yet behind the legend, Xerxes buried his rhetoric under carnage. After Leonidas fell, Persians desecrated his body, crucifying what remained. What survived wasn't just his corpse, so corrupted, but the impulse to remember. Leonidas became something larger, not a man, but an emblem of unyielding loyalty. This memory extends beyond kings. Consider Brasidas, a Spartan general in the Peloponnesian War, brave, cunning, beloved. At Amphipolis, he held the line, shaping Spartan fate with stroke and stratagem. He died in battle, buried not in grandeur, but in a simple ossuary marked by gold, a gleaming testament to quiet valor. And there are stories of many more, not immortalized by poets, but whispered by later voices. Spartans believed themselves descendants of heroes like Heracles, 8 times over, weaving myth into dynasty. These stories bind the past not to fact, but to faith, belief in a lineage greater than the self. Even the lawgiver Lycurgus may be more myth than man. He shaped the Spartan constitution, gave rise to Syssitia, the mess halls, the austere culture, but his existence remains as vaporous as the rites he inspired. So deeply did Sparta root itself in legend that Lycurgus became law, and law became legend. Sparta's own history becomes a tapestry of myth and memory, woven tightly so that identity and story are inseparable. In the mosaic of myth stands Gorgo, who held wisdom sharper than steel. She counseled Spartan elders to scrape away wax from a hidden message, foreshadowing Xerxes' invasion. When asked what distinguished Spartan women, Gorgo replied, "We are the only women who give birth to men." Her words echo not as legend, but as lived truth, mothers, queens, guardians of state. Now you walk slowly along the pass, your hand brushing weathered rock warmed by morning sun, imagining the chants of Sparta rising above clashing shields and battle cries cascading off stone. You feel the gravity of legend as much as history. Local tradition held annual solemnities, Leonidiae, to honor Leonidas, with songs and contests at his tomb. His body may be lost, but his place in memory remains. Then there is the Queen Sparta, eponym of the city, daughter of kings, mother of myth. She birthed not just people, but a place. Her legacy lives in every foot of Laconia's soil. Scholars debate how much of what we know is glory, and how much is fiction. The Spartan mirage concept suggests the stories we tell bond us more than we think. What we believe is true often matters more than what is provable. An essay titled "This Isn't Sparta" reminds us, depictions often blur fact and fantasy. Truth is complex. Memory is sculpted. You close your eyes. Hear the clack of spears on shields. See the silhouette of Leonidas lifting his sword on that narrow rock. Feel the steam of morning dew on bronze, smell the dust and iron. Sense the immutable pact that stretches through centuries. These are the bones of myth. These are the names we never let go. These are Spartans. So myth stands not apart from history, but as history's shadow. Leonidas is as real as any record, for he pulses in our imagination. Lycurgus may be myth, yet his laws endure. Gorgo, Brasidas, they live in memory. They have passed beyond person and into the living city. As the sun begins to burn the dew from the pass, you turn and feel the land exhale. The mists settle like dust on stone, not diminishing, but layering, soft, insistent, enduring. Ahead lies the path deeper into silence and memory, where discipline fades and legend lingers. You stand again among silent stones, this time not at a training ground, nor a festival, but at the threshold of something greater, the invisible architecture of Spartan life. Not made of marble or ink, but of discipline sharpened into culture. So sharp, it slices through time. In Sparta, pursuit of personal pleasure, hedon, was not an ideal. Instead, every Spartan sought merit, excellence, virtue, mastery over self. Discipline wasn't oppression. It was freedom. From the agoge onward, from childhood through each ritual, discipline shaped not just muscles, but character. Plutarch observed how Spartan discipline produced obedience, and rendered its youth efficient in both bravery and regulation, creating warriors whose valor was mirrored by submission to law. Every Spartan life followed a rhythm. Children in the agoge taught to endure hunger, cold, hierarchy, practicing stealth, resourcefulness, suffering. Adults lived under constant scrutiny, not flaunting luxury, always ready for training or war. Freedom, for Spartans, was self-mastery. One might live with less, but never without purpose. The power of Sparta was never in numbers, nor in individual heroics alone, but in discipline made communal. A Spartan hoplite in the phalanx carried his shield for himself, and the man on his left. A whisper of slack, and the formation would crack. In battle, discipline became armor, stronger than bronze. Modern scholarship argues that Sparta's domination of discipline made each Spartan worth several men of any other city-state. Discipline was also imposed externally, to maintain status quo and heighten control. Helots, a vast and subjugated population, were terrorized into submission by institutions like the Krypteia, silent, brutal, covert, Brightness or softness was dangerous. Discipline and fear bound society together through unspoken enforcement. Discipline was woven into ritual. The Gymnopedia festival forced dancers to perform precise, age-grouped war dances under scorching sun, demanding endurance and focus. Even in celebration, there was no escape. Discipline was devotion. Legends, Leonidas's stand at Thermopylae, Lycurgus's laws, Gorgo's wisdom, are not relics, but reminders of Spartan valor, of unyielding discipline. These echo not just historical deeds, but ongoing ideals. That discipline, long beyond war, sustained the city in myth and practice. Sound, the measured steps of a phalanx. A single whistle or command, and movement shifts. Touch, the cool grip of spears. The rough surface of shields tied to legacy. Sight, a torch's flame illuminating tight ranks, disciplined faces in dusk. You sense that discipline wasn't taught, it was inherited. This paradox held truth for them, control over the self-enabled mastery of fate. Their lives, restrictive to an outsider, were worlds of autonomy to the initiated. You step away from the silent field of discipline, feeling its weight settle into your bones. Ahead lies fragility and change. You stand on the ridge overlooking the valley of Laconia, the hills bathed in the waning glow of dusk. The rich soil seems to sigh as the shadows deepen. A land once molded by unyielding strength now sleeps beneath a soft veil of time. Here, the echoes of Spartan glory and tragedy linger. This is not an ending told in a single moment, but a slow erasure, a weakening of legacy. Let me walk you through how the mightiest of city-states, unyielding and disciplined, gradually unraveled. At its zenith, Sparta ruled supreme. The Peloponnesian League bowed to its discipline. But the success born of unrelenting militarism carried its own doom. Victory in the Peloponnesian War, 431 to 404 BC, exacted a silent tax. Land was strained, coffers emptied, manpower dwindled. Wealth and tensions began to shift. The very Spartiates, Spartan full citizens, grew fewer. Many died in wars. Many more were stripped of their status for cowardice, poverty, or inability to contribute to communal messes. Where once there had been thousands, by the 330s BC there were barely 1,000. Sparta's rigid social structure would not admit new citizens. The oliganthropia, the scarcity of men, strictly limited replenishing of the ranks. Land didn't divide fairly. With inheritance laws, wealth concentrated in fewer hands. Men who could not afford memberships in the essential syssitia, the communal mess halls, were stripped of citizen rights. The result? A shrinking class of warriors supporting a vast population of helots and perioika. Sparta's strength began turning inward, but the internal foundation was giving way. Even the earth rebelled against Sparta. A catastrophic earthquake in 464 BC decimated buildings, and unleashed a helot revolt. Losing tens of thousands of citizens, real and symbolic, Sparta scrambled for stability. Athens offered help, but was rebuffed, shattering erstwhile alliances. The ensuing First Peloponnesian War began not with swords, but with fault lines and trust. The soil shifted, and Sparta crumbled, one tremor at a time. Sparta's victory over Athens in the Peloponnesian War earned dominance, but it proved short-lived. Economic strain, waning manpower, and overextended alliances eroded its influence. Amidst this, alliances turned away. Former allies grew resentful or opportunistic, as Sparta's iron grip loosened. Then came Leuctra in 371 BC, a decisive turning point. Thebes, under Epaminondas, used creative, shocking tactics, deepening its left flank, to shatter the Spartan phalanx. Spartiates, dwindled in number, perished by hundreds. Not just soldiers, but pillars. The loss was both physical and psychological. Worse, Thebes liberated Messenia. Freed helots regained their homelands and families. Sparta lost a third of its territory and much of its economic foundation. The city that once ruled with fear now faced the terror of reversal. Even after Sparta soldiered on, it hosted festivals. It preserved laws. But internally, discipline became brittle. Economic decline, population loss, shifts in war composition. Spartans began enlisting helots as hoplites, a breach of tradition. Spartan identity was becoming diluted. The pillars of discipline, exclusivity, and martial purity stood on shaky ground. The Hellenistic era brought new masters, Macedon then Rome. Philip II invaded Laconia. Egypt, Persia, none could knock down Sparta, but none needed to. By 192 BC, Sparta was absorbed into the Achaean League, its kings deposed. Though its independence lingered in custom, it had lost the agency to act. Later, in the Roman age, Sparta became a curiosity, its ancient customs romanticized by travelers, a relic in service of nostalgia. In 396 AD, even barbarian invasions sacked Sparta. Byzantine neglect followed. Its people dispersed into Mistras. The city's stones crumbled under the weight of centuries. Yet the memory, the rhythm of discipline, the stories of heroes, the echo of lambdas on shields, endured. Even the modern town of Sparta, small and provincial, sits atop that tapestry, humble, quiet, unbowed. Sight. Sunlight fades on empty barracks, silent agora, erosion lines on broken statuary. Sound. Crickets replace battle drums. Rain weeps through stones, flutes echo in distance like fading heartbeats. Touch. Polished shield rim in a museum, cold and smooth, once emblem, now artifact. You feel the loss, not in epic collapse, but in slow, inexorable relinquishment. Sparta fell not through thunder, but through time. Discipline became brittle when its keepers thinned. Hegemony turned to absence. Identity fading into memory. Yet the fall itself teaches that rigid strength without renewal becomes fragile. That glory unshared becomes insoluble. And yet, but the memory endures. Across millennia, Sparta remains, a whisper of stone and steel in history's wind. The stones deepen in color, the air cools, and the valley exhales in hush. Before you lies the land that shaped legends, nurtured warriors, and lost itself to time. And yet, does it end? Or does it simply return, again and again, through memory? Let us step gently toward what remains. You walk at day's end, sneakers silent against a patch of faded earth where once children trained. You close your eyes, hear the echo of spears clacking, the murmur of youth rising in rhythmic chant. The valley answers, with grass swaying, with soil that drank centuries of blood and bread, with trees that whisper of funerals carried on wind, of mothers calling sons to battle, of old men exhaling laws to silent youth. Memory is alive here, strange and awake, not in monuments, but in the breath of the stones. Ruin traces edges of the city, walls eroded, alleys where dust sleeps in shadow, a well where water still tastes of winter. Yet close your eyes, and you might see a figure in crimson, cloak flickering in torchlight, clutching the aspies, gaze steady ahead. A mother's lips, crisp and soft, whispering, "Return with this, or on it." Drums rising at dawn. Feet stamped in dance and war. The chorus tightening into one voice. Spears pressed shoulder to shoulder, an iron forest flexing in unison. A lawgiver leaning on script, teaching men to become the unbreakable. These ghosts inhabit the city less as phantoms and more like echoes. You sense them behind corners, between stones, rising with each exhale of the wind. Once, Sparta's empire spread like shadow, controlling leagues, commanding fields of battle, bending states to its discipline. Now, the land bends to breeze. And still, the heart of the city pulses, not in power, but in story. In every person whispering its name. In every traveler pausing on the road, touched by something they cannot name. For the heart of Sparta was never conquest, it was conviction. And conviction survives. Walk among olive branches just beyond the city. Let sunlight rest on olives, green, silver, last of harvest. Pull one from branch, feel its heft. Smell earth, rind, rain, and soil. Taste lean, bitter scent of memory carried in oil. That oil, once shared, unites voices across time. When you lean close to the ground, hear ants marching in line, not soldiers, but silent citizens of a memory that still echoes discipline. Stand on a hill near Sparta at night. Rustle of insects. A few lights in windows. The mountain slope holds its shadow steady. Above, stars wheel in silence. Here, heritage still lives. In every child playing in dust, every woman who draws breath in old stones, every stranger who feels the hush and leans into it. Future is planted in memory's soil. What thrives today, discipline, quiet strength, communal heart, is grown from Spartan seeds. I am the echo of clashing bronze, the parent of stories told in sweat. I am the last gasp of a march at dawn, the lullaby of shield and spear. Let the wind be your witness. Let the silent stones cradle you. Let the silence of Laconia guide you gently into reflection. For we have walked the paths of history together. We have breathed the dust of training fields, heard the weight of discipline, seen the ghost of legends. And now, as the night settles over mountains and valley, may these echoes of the past guide you gently into your dreams. Wherever you go next, carry their memory. Because memory, like wind, moves through you, softly, inevitably, and forever. Thank you for taking this long, immersive journey through the life, discipline, triumph, and memory of Sparta. May its echoes rest with you, slow, steady, and eternal.